Welcome everyone to episode 23 of the Hip Hop Orchestra Presents, and I'm joined by a hugely inspirational figure and someone I've looked up to for so long, Harriet J W, the creator and founder of Secret Sessions. How are you?
Good. It's nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
That's my absolute pleasure. We were just saying before the podcast, it's been a couple of years, hasn't it, since we've actually caught up?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Time moves quickly, doesn't it? And you've now got me on camera when I haven't had my hair cut in 6 months.
Oh, you look fine. You look fine. How's things? Okay.
Yeah, good. It's been obviously some big changes, but I quite like change. I thrive on change, so we've adapted and managed to keep ourselves busy whilst not being able to have live shows and do a lot of things in the real world. But
Yeah.
we've done a lot during lockdown that I'm pleased with.
Oh, good. How has it been for you in terms of, was it like a huge drastic change for you, or was it all okay for you? Were you able to adapt really quickly?
Yeah, so I mean, within kind of one day,
Hmm.
both of the shows that we do were cancelled
Wow.
indefinitely. So we do a show at the Hospital Club, the H Club, that happens on a monthly basis. And then we do a show at Soho Farmhouse that happens almost on a bi-monthly basis. And each of those shows have 3 artists playing and about 300 audience members. So
Wow.
suddenly just one day not having that contact with all those people and not having that platform for the artists, and all of our activity kind of works towards those kind of pinnacle moments in the month and then comes down from that. So
Mhm.
without that, we had to just suddenly sort of reshift what is Secret Sessions without the live show.
Mm. 'Cause I know you've been in this for 9 years now, isn't it? I think it's 2011 you started, I think it was.
God, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah,
Because we met, what, 3, 4 years ago at least, wasn't it? I think about that sort of time, wasn't it?
yeah. Yeah.
And
So, Secret Sessions as a creative pursuit began in 2011 when I uploaded the first YouTube video that was called The Secret Session. But it was really about 3 years later where it was sort of taken seriously and started to develop as a business. It was more of a sort of passion, creative project from a, young filmmaker who had just graduated uni, which was me.
Mhm.
But now it's, there's a lot more to it than just some videos on YouTube now.
Of course it is. That's why I want to talk to you, because I know the work that you do through Secret Sessions is absolutely incredible. I know you've been around for years now and you've got an amazing following. And I want to find out how you all got started. Before all Secret Sessions, you said you were a filmmaker at uni. Is that how you started
Yeah,
in the industry?
yeah. So I graduated from St Martin's in London, where I'd been studying fine art, but fine art with a video focus. But before then, I'd picked up a camera, I think, in sixth form college, and kind of fallen in love with the process of creating imagery. And my work at university was always very music driven,
Hmm.
and it wasn't necessarily. I've sort of spent a few years unpicking this, but it was never necessarily for the music. It was more about the way that music connects with the viewer. So I
Mm.
was always really fascinated by, I guess, the art of connection and how you can use music to make people feel something. And so I always used music within my work. And then when I graduated, I had a new camera and I just started filming musicians. And then I ended up producing the London arm of Balcony TV, which was a big music worldwide sort of sessions platform. And then following on from that, just became, I guess, kind of bored creatively with the format. Everyone was stuck on a balcony. Every artist only had to play one song. It was a kind of in and out conveyor belt. And actually, I wanted to develop a format that could travel into live events. It could go to festivals. It could do whatever we wanted. So came up with the idea for Secret Sessions that was a kind of non-restrictive music format. And then I've just been growing ever since in different directions.
Brilliant. 'Cause I know that you, like you said, you kind of link that sort of digital world to the music world as well, don't you? How you found that throughout the years? Is it quite was it an easy transition for you, or did you have to work really hard to be able to merge both together at the same time?
Yeah, so if anything, I'd say our digital focus has probably suffered since we started the live events. I think I fell out of love a little bit with YouTube probably around 2015, when, or maybe even earlier than that, but YouTube became a lot about kind of webcams and cover singers and tricking the algorithm. And what I really wanted to do was support talent that was on maybe the more traditional music route, that wanted to get signed and wanted to develop a career that was based on original music. And to sort of to go back to that art of connection, I think it was a natural process that we took something into the live world, because trying to do that on the internet, there's only so many times you can sort of touch people with music without wanting to do it in a live sense. So that's when the live event started, and it's just grown and grown from there.
That's fantastic. And has it been? I know how we both know how quickly the industry changes. Has that affected how your business has been run as well, or have you been able to adapt quickly as you go along?
Yeah, so I think we were always kind of, digital video when we started was kind of new for artists. I think it was quite a new thing for artists to need lots and lots of video in order to promote themselves. And then from there, streaming obviously became such a big thing, and people less and less went to the shops and bought records. And what that meant for artists was that the ways that they make money was suddenly became a very different landscape, and quite a hard landscape. And Secret Sessions has always been about supporting that early artist that is growing a fan base and is shown to have talent. So that section of artists is actually someone that probably 10 years ago would have been signed by a record label, but because record labels have also had to adapt because they make less money from traditional ways, they focus more on probably the more developed artists than they used to. So actually there's a big gap between becoming a talented artist and growing a fan base of a few thousand people and becoming commercially or financially successful. So it's that talent area that Secret Sessions looks to serve. And I think in a way we always have, and we were probably at the beginning of that wave of technology. Not that we've created any technology that fueled that, but we supported artists on that journey. So it wasn't like we were early enough that we were mourning that we no longer could sell vinyl. We started on YouTube, so the record industry had already taken a massive turn at that point.
Yeah. And through the years of doing this, what have been sort of the most difficult things you've had to face in your industry and what you do with Secret Sessions?
I mean, COVID
is
a big one.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so I think initially something that was hard was, I guess, the sort of rise of traffic on the internet, particularly on YouTube. So when we first started putting videos on YouTube, we'd stick a video up and get maybe like 10,000 views on that video. And that was, not having any sort of spend behind it, not having any particular digital marketing team. It was just putting it up there and people enjoying that in the space. I think algorithms have changed a lot. So, they favor certain types of content, and there's just so many more people now doing that. So, there was a switch, I don't know, 2016, 2017, where you'd put music content on the internet and just wouldn't get watched unless you put money behind it. And I think that was quite hard because it suddenly meant that we were creating video, which we always put a lot of time and effort into, that no one would really see. And that was part of the reason, again, for taking this into a live industry and not sitting on YouTube, because I think eventually the more content you create that's just not getting watched, it becomes a sort of pointless exercise. Whereas in the live space, you can really kind of see the impact you're having.
Of course you can, because for me, live is always amazing, and to be there to see the acts that you love and respect is a feeling you won't ever beat, I feel. And through the years of you doing secret sessions, you've actually worked with some amazing artists, such as like ex-ambassadors to the Lumineers and so forth. In a way, do you kind of feel like a musical parent that's helped them to reach those heights that they reached?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always quite a hard one to sort of place yourself into an artist's career like that, because you can't measure the impact of what our work with those artists did. I hope it played a role in them becoming as successful as they are. I think there's some, my favorite part of secret sessions is when we work with an artist quite early. So for example, Mahalia, we worked with when she was 12. And she's now 19 or 20 and is, really having quite a lot of commercial success now. And that's amazing to watch. I think we've worked with her in the live sense and early on the YouTube channel. And I think what I've realized from working with talent this early on is just how long it does take. And, a lot of people you'll hear saying, oh, they just came out of nowhere, they're an overnight success, but actually most overnight successes have taken 10 years. And, being in the fortunate position that I am with secret sessions, it's meant that I've really been able to see that talent really early, because sometimes, we worked with Casey Musgraves, we worked with Mahalia, we worked with Freya Ridings, Bastille, and actually there might be 4 years between when we worked with them and when anyone had heard of them. So yeah, I mean, I'd love to think that we played a part in it, but I'm also I'm not there saying we discovered so and so, because there's lots of amazing companies that are working with talent early on.
And through your years of doing secret sessions, have you kind of got a more experienced ear now of what you feel would work in the future in terms of artistry and so forth?
So I think this is where I'm probably different to a lot of people that run music businesses in the industry, because I don't actually have a musical background at all. I come from a musical family, and I'm the only one in my family that can't play an instrument, and I don't have a lot of that sort of understanding of the music of art form. But I think that is almost more beneficial, because I know what I like, and I know when I hear it if I like it, and I think as a kind of layman's ear, I can feel if that music connects with me and might connect with people. If you listen to a piece of music and you get goosebumps, you don't know why that's happened, and you don't need to sort of dissect the intricacies of the music to know why that happened. And that's something that I really enjoy in not, maybe it's just my excuse because I don't know how to make music, but I'm an audience member essentially.
There we go. Okay, that's a really good way of putting it, actually, because like you said, you haven't got that musical background. You see, your family was, but you know what works, don't you, through the goosebumps and so forth. I think that's really important as well, to get that kind of different set of ears as well. So that's really crucial. What was the kind of, had it been a kind of like dream target of yours through secret sessions of what you would like to achieve in the future?
So we're quite focused on artist community at the moment, and working with talent and developing that talent to give them a platform. And I have a particular focus on women. The gender bias in the music industry is a big issue, and just 20% of artists that are signed to record labels are women. So a lot of my attention right now is focused on developing that side of what we do. And we've come up with an artist community and a project that's called Girls to the Front. And it's industry and creative talent network, basically. So during lockdown, we've been meeting twice a week with these female artists and doing creative sessions where they all talk about their work and kind of champion each other. And then on a Thursday, we've been doing industry sessions where we've had people, you know, really big managers in the industry. We've had people from Warner, we've had people from platforms like Cobalt and Patreon, and really giving this talent the kind of step up that the music industry isn't giving them. Mm-hmm. So in terms of, I guess, a kind of dream is that we continue to develop that and we make a real difference in the future of some of this talent.
Brilliant. And kind of adding to that over the years as well, do you feel like, what do you think have been your kind of highest achievements to date so far?
I think something that I really value is some of the stages in which we got to talent, I guess. So, you know, we had Mahalia and Freya Ridings on our stage, and then 2 years later, they were both nominated for Best Female at the Brit Awards.
Wow.
We had Katie Musgraves on the stage. 6 months later, she won a Grammy. So I think it's just these sort of moments of meeting these artists and working with them and then seeing that rise happen. Mm-hmm. I think that's, you know, it feels really nice when you have them on your stage and then you see them on the TV on like a worldwide stage, seeing that success. And I think you also kind of buy into their success because once you meet them, you understand them as people as well as musicians, which is always really nice.
And going on from that, how important do you think it is for their personality to come through whilst you're talking to them? Do you think it's really important to be a decent person or be very cutthroat in the industry?
So we always say that the bits between the songs are the most important things about what an artist does. I think, you know, the artists that you remember are the artists like Adele and Amy Winehouse and those people whose stories that you know alongside their music. Mm-hmm. And I think, you know, if an artist stands on the stage and just sings a song kind of perfectly and is totally polished and, you know, doesn't give away any vulnerability, I think it's much harder to connect with that artist. Mm-hmm. Whereas, you know, what we try and do at Secret Sessions is create this really sort of intimate and sort of safe space where an artist can just tell any of their stories and be that person. And I think where an artist feels that they can talk about those vulnerabilities, the experience you then have when they play their music is completely different.
Amazing. And throughout the years as well, have you had any kind of mentors help you and guide you along this business of yours? Or has it been very down to you and study yourself and learn as you go along?
I think my mentors have more been on the business side, because I think, you know, I was definitely a creative that turned into an entrepreneur. I wasn't naturally, you know, I'm naturally all right at maths and academically, but I think it was just that sort of understanding selling, I guess. And if you want to build a business, you have to learn to sell. And that was something I always found quite uncomfortable because Secret Sessions was such a passion project. I think I had in my head kind of selling was a little bit more of a sort of crude thing that only sort of slimy men in suits did. Whereas actually all it is an exchange of value, and sharing music and creating videos and putting on events and everything we do is valuable. And I think, you know, to create a business around that, you have to be able to channel that value. And I think it comes down to authenticity. And I've always been, you know, worried about being inauthentic. So I think the mentors that I had were more about helping me understand the value of what Secret Sessions was, as opposed to actually developing the creative side of that, because that was what always came more naturally to me.
Brilliant. Because I love what you said about inauthenticity, and how crucial do you think it is for anyone, whether it's being an artist or a business owner like yourself, to be authentic?
Oh, 100%. I think, you know, it's cheesy, but the only person that you can be is yourself, because nobody else can.
Of course.
And I think as soon as anybody's trying to pretend to be someone else, or trying to look alike, sound alike another artist, it just becomes inauthentic and then quite obvious. And I think that's really hard, especially for women in the industry, because you get a lot of people trying to mold you, and I think that's particularly true if you are signed early, or if you have certain people that have stakes in you as an artist or you as a business, which is what essentially you are. And people can try and push them down certain routes which they're not. But I also think on the other side, it takes time to realize who you are as an artist and who you are as a person. Just like any industry, you need to spend time developing that side of what you do and realizing what it is that drives you in your music.
I was going to kind of go on from there as well and kind of ask kind of what inspires you every day. Is it the same sort of goals every day, or has it changed regularly as you've gone along?
I think for me, it's fundamentally about people and growth. I think, and those people happen to be artists, but I think, I would have equally, maybe have been as happy in. So I had a athletic background and always thought that I was going to study sports and fitness. And I think it's a similar area of interest for me, because I'm interested in helping people to become the best that they can be. And I think I settled in the music industry because it's such, particularly with women artists, it's such an area of growth that needs to happen. I think there's a lot that happens in the music industry and other entertainment industries that put women on the back foot and make them feel like they can't be their best selves. And I think what we're doing with Girls to the Front at Secret Sessions really helps these artists understand kind of who they are and who they can be. And that's the same thing that we do on the stage with the artists. And that's why we, show at places like Soho Farmhouse and the H Club and these sort of really nice members clubs, because what we're always doing is putting a premium around these artists and around their talent and around what they do.
And talk about these fantastic venues, actually. Like you mentioned, obviously that one just now, and I think the Hospital Club as well. Do you have a kind of particular favorite venue that you love to go to and perform and have your artists perform at?
Yeah, I think Hospital Club will always be a fond one because it's where we started in 2014. When we started the show there, it was very kind of acoustic driven. It was white men and beards playing their guitars. And that was a hangover from the YouTube channel because we didn't have equipment that could amplify or plug in instruments. So we had to have these kind of really stripped back. And then when we went to Hospital Club, and the room that we showed in used to be Radiohead's recording studio, where OK Computer was recorded and all of this great stuff. And it had that amazing equipment, which we had access to. So suddenly the sort of realms of possibility with the artists that we could do and the music that we could show really changed. And that allowed us to really grow into what Secret Sessions is now, which is much more pop, R&B, electronic, grime, and just a myriad of music. And we haven't been stuck to any particular genre. Soho Farmhouse is great because it's a brilliant day out. It's a lovely place to go to, and we get to go for the day and feed the animals and swim in the swimming pool. So that's lovely, and that's great for artists as well because it feels really special to them as well to go there. It's not, we've never wanted to show in pubs with sticky red striped carpet that smells of cigarettes. We've always wanted this kind of luxury feel.
Yeah, that's what I really love about Secret Sessions, because I've been to some of your events before in the past, and every venue you've picked has been fantastic. It has that kind of high-end feel to it, which we really love. And kind of going on from there as well, about advice and so forth, has there been any kind of advice that you've been given that you've been able to pass on to your artists and also your team as well that you work with?
I think the most sort of valuable thing is just the kind of, I guess, keeping going. And I remember someone saying to me, it doesn't matter how small the step is, but as long as it's in the right direction, it's a good step. And I think, you know, sometimes you'll feel like months and months have passed and you haven't progressed, you know, you haven't done any bigger shows, or you haven't got any new brand deals or something like that. But I think, you know, as long as, because I think the Secret Sessions is based on a lot of kind of incremental small moments. Like, we've never had this big moment of, you know, confetti and fireworks and Adele performing for us. It's just been like this slow process of slowly sort of getting into people's minds, and that's why they come to our shows, and that's why they know about us. So I think kind of committing to the journey. And, you know, I say that to artists as well. I think artists are always waiting for this big break, but I don't really think big breaks exist. I think success comes from a lot of small moments that you work for.
You know, it might be like a silly question actually, but how did you come up with the name Secret Sessions? Was it like a really flash of the moment name, or did you have other names kind of listed just in case?
Well, I can tell you because I remember the exact moment. So, as I said, I used to work for Balcony TV, and at the time, the kind of big session sites on YouTube were Balcony TV, Black Cab Sessions, and all of these formats that were really restrictive and you know, stuck to a particular location. So Black Cab Sessions are always going to be stuck in a black cab for the rest of their lives. Yeah. Balcony TV, they were always going to be on a balcony for the rest of their lives. And I didn't want that restriction because I was, you know, I was 25 and I didn't know what was, you know, where my life was going to go, what I'd want to be doing in however many years. So I wanted a really non-restricted format that just sounded nice but didn't really mean anything. So I was on the way back from an advertising festival in Berlin that I'd been working at, and I decided, I was inspired by, you know, seeing all this creative during the week, and I decided that I wanted to develop my own music platform. And I was on the plane. I think everyone can, you know, have great creative time on the plane because you don't have all the distractions of daily life. And I just was writing lots and lots of things, and then I wrote down Secret Sessions, and just decided to just go for that one at that moment. I think I had this sort of tenacity and arrogance of a 25-year-old that you just assume that you can do whatever you want. You just go out and do it. And I think, you know, 2 weeks later, we were filming artists. Another reason we called it Secret Sessions is because we'd be filming artists for the old platform that we worked for, and then we'd say, hey, do you want to come and film something else? And they'd say, what is it? And we'd be like, it's a secret. We didn't tell the artists what we were filming for, and they became the Secret Sessions.
Oh, that's fantastic. And how difficult is it for you to keep these kind of secrets a lot of the time? Because obviously that's kind of your theme, isn't it, the secrets? How difficult is it to keep secrets until the last moment?
Yeah, I think in the beginning, we'd have a lot of people saying who's playing, and they'd want to know who was playing before they came to the show. But what we wanted to do was build an audience of people that wanted to come because they trusted us, not because they necessarily wanted to see whichever artist it was. And I think that's really important for our brand, because that's important for emerging talent, because the reality is that most people won't have heard of the artists that are playing anyway. And what we don't want them to do is go on YouTube and Google and find, you know, a phone clip and where they don't sound great because it's recorded through a phone, and decide not to come to the show because of that. So we wanted to build a brand where people knew that if they were coming, they were going to get great music, and they didn't need to know who was playing, because they knew that they were coming to Secret Sessions, and that music would be great.
That's very clever way of doing it. It's really clever because I know how, like you said, like a phone clip could like potentially kind of not obviously ruin it, but dampen the experience of what you're expecting for the show. So that's a really clever way of doing it. Really.
Yeah.
And
But
how important?
there's been some really nice moments where, you know, I've introduced an artist onto the stage and someone in the audience has been like, oh my God. And it's like
Yeah.
an artist that they really love, that they didn't know was going to be playing, and they didn't know that they were going to get that experience. That's always really nice to see.
Yeah. And kind of adding to that, what are kind of like your favorite moments of a live show? Is it those kind of those like surprise moments, or is it like the whole experience?
So my favorite moments are always when someone is better than you expected. I think we always program people that are going to be good, but sometimes they just kind of, sometimes we take a little bit of a risk, and there's always that sort of white knuckle ride, not knowing what they're going to sound like until they open their mouths. But seeing an artist be able to make a crowd that have never heard of them go crazy is always brilliant.
Mm.
There's an artist called Jessica Wilde who we booked through actually probably a 10-second phone clip from her manager.
Wow.
And we just saw this clip and we're like, she's brilliant.
Yeah.
But you know, you're always hoping that you're right. And then, you know, she jumped on the stage and just completely knocked it out of the park, and the audience went absolutely wild.
Wow.
For Jessica Wilde.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's always amazing. And we do a lot of things at the shows that are audience related. So we ask audience members to submit a confession, and we read those confessions out. And the reason why we do that is because we talk about vulnerability, and we say to the audience, the reason why you love coming to watch live music is because you like to see an artist be vulnerable. So what if we turn that around on its head, and all of you submit a confession, and we'll read some of those confessions out, and people can raise their hand if they want to admit it was them or not. And by the time we read out the confessions, you know, people who have submitted them have probably had a few drinks, and they end up owning up to them. So we've had some really nice, we've had some really nice moments where, you know, one girl said, I'm here with my ex-boyfriend, but I wish he wasn't my ex.
Oh, really?
And then she, you know, I said, do you want to reveal yourself? And she put her hand up, and it turned out he wanted to get back together too. And then they came on stage and had this nice moment. And then the artists play their music, and it just creates this kind of like electric atmosphere in the room.
Wow. I was going to ask you actually if there's been any kind of stand-up moments for that confession section.
Yeah, so that one was a really good one. And there was another one where a guy had seen another guy at the previous secret sessions. He'd submitted a confession saying he fancied him. And I read out the confession, and I said, and would you like to reveal yourself? And he put his hand up, and I was like, and he came on the stage, and I said, oh, and is the guy here tonight? And he was like, he's not here. And everyone's like, oh no. And then his hand came up, and he was there.
Wow.
And they got on the stage, and I said, I'm going to count to 5, and then I'm going to close my eyes, and you can do whatever you want. And then we all did a countdown, and then they had a kiss.
Ah, that's amazing. You must feel so like overwhelmed with joy when these kind of moments happen at your shows as well.
Yeah, I feel like Cupid.
You might do a Cupid session soon. You never know.
Yeah. And what's really nice about those moments as well is because it's such an intimate show, the artist sees those moments. So the artist will get on stage and be like, oh, congratulations to Brandon and so for getting it on.
Yeah.
And then they might dedicate a song to them, and it just creates like lots of really nice moments.
Oh, so yeah, this is why live shows are so good, aren't they? Because they are like literally, like you said, these kind of spur of the moment things that happen, and it just makes the show that much better. I feel as well, doesn't it? Because if like you said earlier about if it's too polished or too structured, sometimes it's not as good. I feel obviously it's a brilliant show, but sometimes people like that kind of vulnerability and that kind of raw essence to the show, don't they? I feel, and kind of going on from that. What kind of process do you have when it comes to choosing a artist or artists for your shows? Is it the same sort of process, or like it's about a 10-second phone clip for Jessica Wilde? Because I know her personally as well. She's fantastic. Is every artist different, or is it kind of different for each artist?
Yeah, so we have a kind of range of industry partners, I guess, where we have trust in their selection. So we'll have some managers, and if they say to us, I've got this great new artist, and we, generally will listen to the music and make sure it fits with the show. But in terms of a sort of promise of quality, there's people we work with. We generally ask an artist to submit a live video of them performing live. I think a lot of times artists will have recorded music that sounds great. They might have a music video that looks really great, but that doesn't mean to say that they're ready for a 300-person audience yet. So we have to see that live stuff. Occasionally, artists don't have that yet, and we'll go on a recommendation. A couple of times we just do it on a feeling and take a bit of a risk. And then, there is a level that we would like an artist to be at in terms of growing their own fan base. I think if you haven't spent time growing your own fan base yet, that sort of shows a level of commitment. So we will be looking for artists that have a certain amount of fans and a certain amount of, I guess, plays on digital streaming sites. But that doesn't have like a specific number.
Yeah. Do you tend to go for themes for your events, or is it literally kind of the same sort of format for each event, and obviously different venues as well?
Yeah, so we always have 3 secret acts. It's always hosted, so I'll host the shows. In terms of genre, we don't necessarily we wouldn't have like a hip hop show and then a pop show, but we do pay attention to the sort of journey of the night for the audience. We probably wouldn't have like 3 solo artists. So we might have a solo artist that opens the show and it's a bit more chilled, and then we might have a band, and then we might have a solo artist with backing. So the show will tend to get bigger and louder as the night goes on, but then sometimes we mix it up and we throw like a really amazing acoustic artist right at the end. And we do shows on different days of the week, so we might program slightly differently on a Saturday than we would to a Tuesday in the middle of the week.
Amazing. Because obviously, like saying about earlier, that obviously I've been to a lot of your shows and they've all been amazing. Each artist you bring on board is amazing, and obviously you present as well. How do you kind of feel about presenting and organising at the same time? Do you ever get overwhelmed, or do you find it just flowed really naturally?
Yeah, I think we've developed quite a nice process now. At the beginning, there was a lot of sort of outreach and looking for artists to play, but now we're in a fortunate position where the requests come to us, so it's a kind of filtering of, who we think would suit the show. Yeah, I mean, I think I can't pretend sometimes in the month I don't really want to jump on the stage and talk to people, and I think that's more because, you're putting yourself in a vulnerable position. I think, a lot of people don't like public speaking. I'm quite comfortable with it, but there's definitely been shows where I'm tired and I think I'd just like to, sit down with a glass of wine and watch tonight.
Yeah, of course. And for the kind of like going on from that, obviously, like you said, like not everyone does feel comfortable going on stage and talking, giving public talks. Did you ever kind of need any kind of training or practice beforehand, or did you have to learn as you went along through each performance that you gave?
Yeah, I think it's kind of come relatively naturally. I think I was always the person in the family that would do speeches at the weddings and at people's birthdays and things like that. So I've always been relatively outgoing and comfortable putting myself on display. But I think I've definitely got better as time's gone on. And I think eventually, because I've, presented so many of the shows, I say a lot of the same things every month because I know what connects with audiences and I know what they want to hear and I know how to introduce artists. So sometimes it's, there's quite a formula. So, before I introduce the first artist, I'll talk about secret sessions and where it's come from. After the first artist has played, we'll talk about the music industry and why artists need support. And then we'll go into the confession. So it does have a kind of structure which makes it easier to, not get nervous and worried about what you're going to say.
Yeah, brilliant. And just a couple more things before we go, actually. In terms of today's sort of industry, what kind of things do you think an up-and-coming artist should look out for? Is it just more live shows or have an online presence? What do you think an artist of today should be striving for?
I think the most important thing you can do is grow your fan base organically. And I think the way that you have to do that nowadays is through content, and it might just be, it might be imagery, it might be video. I speak to a lot of artists that, say it's really expensive and they're perfectionists and they don't want to put anything out unless it's perfect. But actually, we're in an age where you can connect with your audience through your phone. You don't necessarily need these kind of big technical setups that cost hundreds and thousands of pounds. I think it's important to put yourself out there. If you want to be a musician, fundamentally you have to have fans, or you're not going to be able to sustain a career. I don't think you have to have hundreds and thousands of people online following you. Like, I'm an advocate for having 1,000 true fans, which essentially means you have 1,000 people that will buy your music. If you have 1,000 people that will spend £100 a year on your music and your merch, that's £100,000 income a year.
There you go.
Whereas I think we live in this world where everyone thinks you have to be like influencer numbers, and they're not happy unless they've got 100,000, and then they won't be happy until they've got 300,000, and that's kind of a recipe for not being happy with yourself. So
yeah,
I think cultivating a small community that really love what you do is really important at the beginning of your career. And that might be 20 people at the beginning, and it might grow to 30, and then eventually you'll realize that you have enough people to put on a live gig.
And do you feel like when you've kind of approached artists, that it's sometimes been harder to get a certain artist because of that, or you find getting artists for your show is really easy? Because obviously you've got a great following as well. You've been around for a while now.
Yeah, I think getting artists, everything changes when an artist is signed. You're dealing with completely different people, and they have a plan for that artist. Even before they're signed, you might have a manager and a PR company that have a plan for the artist. But you might think that an artist is perfect for the show, but actually the record company have a plan for that artist, and it might be that they're not going to play live this year. They're just going to focus on writing. So it can be sometimes there's an artist that you really want to get, and then you speak to the record company and they're just not doing anything right now. I think luckily we have a lot of artists that want to play the show. Like, there's more artists than there are spaces on the show, and there's more good artists than there are spaces on the show. So we're always going to be able to find great talent.
Amazing. Because I find what you do is really inspirational, and every show has been incredible. And that's why I've always looked up to you, because it is an amazing platform and show that you do. So thank you for doing such an amazing thing. But
you.
Before we go, is there what's planned for the future?
Well, I don't know. You tell me what's going to happen. We don't know when we'll get our stages back, but for me, we are working hard on Girls to the Front and the artist community of women. We're developing a platform for those artists as well, and when we are able to, we'll get those artists and other great artists on the stage. But I think, the current situation and coronavirus has hit the music industry really hard, as everybody knows. And there's work to be done in the artist community to make sure that when we do get our stages back, there's talent there to go on the stage, because, right now, they're struggling to kind of sustain themselves and their careers.
Yeah. I actually wanted to ask you as well, Baz, just thinking about it now. Do you think, because of lockdown, obviously with COVID as well, that it's affected kind of people's kind of wants and needs to perform again? Or do you think it's kind of inspired them even more to go out there in the future when it does open up again and to perform again?
I think there's been a knock-on effect on people's mental health, and that goes, you know, much further than the music industry. And I think when you're worried about your immediate need to survive, it's hard to think creatively. So I've spoken to a lot of artists that have had real sort of mental blocks and creative blocks through the time of lockdown. And then I've spoken to other artists, and it's been the best time of their lives because they've been able to spend 6 months writing music. And I think either one is absolutely fine, and that they shouldn't beat themselves up for the reality of what the situation's done to their career. I think that sort of live moment for a lot of artists is everything that they're working towards. With everything they're doing, it's working towards getting on that stage. For other artists, it's not, and they probably couldn't care less if they play live or not, like, you know, a bedroom electronic artist. So I think, yeah, every artist is different, and I think don't beat yourself up about whatever your kind of truth in the situation is. And, you know, when we get our stages back, hopefully that connection can intensify again.
Fingers crossed, fingers crossed.
Yeah,
but before we go, obviously I want to say how thankful I am for chatting with me today on my podcast. Honestly, I really appreciate it. And where can
Thanks
people
for having me.
That's my pleasure. And where can people find you and Secret Sessions?
So secret_sessions on Instagram. And if you want to connect with our Girls to the Front artist community, it's Girls TTF on Instagram. Or you can sign up, if you're a female artist, you can sign up via the website, which is girlstothefront.co.
Brilliant.
So yeah, come and see us, and hopefully you can be an audience member very soon.
Amazing.
And if you want to if you do want to sign up to become a audience member, you can go to secretsessions.co.uk.
Oh, brilliant. I'll leave all the links below for you as well afterwards. That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Harriet. It's lovely to talk to you again. And take care, everyone. Thank you.
Georgio.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
See you soon.
Thank you.